Now, if you are coming from the 13 Pro Max and you're thinking about picking up the 14 Pro Max, well, this video is to hopefully enlighten you a little bit to the actual real upgrades we're getting with this model, because I don't think it's worth it. We're hardly getting anything. So to start out, I'll go over what I think is the best upgrade we do get with the 14 Pro Max model and the other models too, the Pro model, because the screen is now brighter. Now, I had an issue with my 13 Pro that when I'd use it out in the heat of summer, and even sometimes in winter, and you're using it a lot, you're recording footage, say 4K footage or video, or you're just using the screen, it would dim down on me to the point, as you can see here, where you basically cannot use the phone. I've got to stop using it, let it cool down. The great news is we are finally getting past that problem of the overheating and the dimming screen. The 14 Pro screen can pump out a really high 2000 nits, and in use in daytime you can see in the sun, you can see it, and it will maintain it for a very, very long time. It's only when you start to record a lot of video, use the action mode or 4K cinematic, will it eventually start to overheat and dim down. But even as I was recording that shot there, it was getting incredibly hot, but it was pumping out that brightness. So that's good. So the display is an upgrade. Then we get always on display. Now, always on display is something they could actually implement and put it, of course, here on the 13 Pro Max and the 13 Pro, because they're using OLED screens. So it's a software thing, really. But Apple's idea, their implementation of an always on display, to my eyes, is wrong. So what they do is they illuminate, the whole screen is on. It's basically just a very dim screen, which is still too bright at night. And it uses a lot of energy because of this. Now, other manufacturers will just put the time, the date, and your notifications. It'll move around the screen slowly, and it consumes hardly any energy. The impact on your battery is not so bad, but with the 14 Pro, the 14 Pro Max, having that always on display has absolutely slaughtered my battery life here, and it's so far using it, of course, going to be worse. So I have to disable it to then get about the same battery life as the 13 Pro Max. So in that area, it's not really an upgrade. Then the dynamic island. Now, you either love this or you hate it. I haven't formed an opinion yet of it, really. I don't like it. Well, what I don't like is it's taking up more screen real estate at the top. The animations are nice. Yes, sure, it looks all pretty, which I think most people will go for, but the problem is you're going to have to use it two-handed. You can't use it one-handed with a dynamic island. So you're going to have your other hand to support it there at the top when you use it, which is slightly annoying. The other is now they've changed the way the notifications are with ISO 16, and they're a little bit more troublesome to actually get to and see. They made that a little bit more difficult. So let's talk about the cameras. A lot of people are really into social media. Great cameras must have the best cameras. Now, this is where I think most people are going to be very disappointed. To me, it's like Apple went along and just software-wise overprocessed a little bit. They tweaked up the exposure, they over-sharpened, they introduced more noise, because I've done a bit of a comparison. So here we have a portrait shot from the 13 Pro Max. It looks really nice. And then here is the same, more or less, scenario. My daughter moves around a lot, she's 4 years old. But it just looks like Apple went and just increased the exposure, they sharpened it up a little bit, and look at the results. I think it's actually worse. So far in my experience, the photos are looking worse than the 14 Pro Max. And I've even done a bit of a low light controlled test here. Again, look at the noise introduced with the 14 Pro Max versus the 13 Pro Max. I don't think this is better. I think we're kind of going backwards. And I know it's a new phone, and I know with firmware updates, Apple is probably likely to correct this and improve things. But is it 2 times better, 3 times better? Apple's marketing the fastest iPhone yet, the most pro iPhone yet. You get the idea. A lot of it, most of it's just marketing hype. Now, it still takes some amazing video quality. So 4K video looks really good. And I did a camera comparison against some other top flagships from Android, and they just couldn't match the video quality. Both selfie and rear cameras especially look really good. Very smooth, no jitter, no judder when you pan around. And then the action mode, this is new. The action mode I actually really do like. So it's using a 2.8K top resolution, very aggressive electronic image stabilization, of course, and compared to these other flagships, dominated. It absolutely killed them. So if you don't have an action cam, but maybe for some reason you want to chase behind someone on a BMX or their skateboard or whatever, you can use the action mode. So I do like that. That is, okay, 2 upgrades there. Now I'm pretty sure they could add the action mode to the 13 Pro. Wouldn't be a problem, it's only software. They could add the always on display as well, software again. So really, not that much of an upgrade. But we do have some areas that Apple just seems to ignore, like the selfie photos. They're either too cool, the white balance, or too warm, where you have orange skin. I see this a lot in my photos, just far too warm. They don't seem to be addressing this issue at all. The other is the lens flare that you get with low light video and low light photos. It's terrible. It basically ruins the footage. There is a fix. Other brands now for years have been using Zeiss optics. They've been using a special coating called the T-Star coating. It's on the Vivo X70 Pro Plus, the Xperia phones, the new one from Sony, and the Vivo X80 Pro Plus. Now, it removes all of that, well, almost. And Apple need to do something about that. They need to put that coating on, but they just seem to refuse to do that. So there's a couple of areas they haven't really improved upon. We still don't have a kill-all in the task manager. You have to keep going, swiping up and kill all your apps off. Would be nice just to press one button. Small little software things do remain. And then don't get me started on the Type-C port, because where is it? It's in the iPads, all right? So why can't they add it to the iPhones? It's just ridiculous. If you need to transfer ProMotion video, a huge amount, we've got AirDrop, but imagine you need to transfer 100 gigabytes worth. They're very large files when you shoot 4K ProRes. If we had USB 3.2, Type-C port, high-speed data transfer, video out, things like that, the supposed best top-end flagship are missing out on basic features that Android has had for years and years, like always on display. They've finally got it. They just take their time about everything. Don't understand. They could make the most amazing phone, but just hold back for marketing purposes, for revenue generating. Speaking of which, revenue generating, the difference between these two is minimal in their physical design. They're basically the same, right? But Apple intentionally moves the camera module. Like they did from the 12 Pro to the 13 Pro, you can't use your old case. Well, I did actually. I cut around where the camera module is. And then I used my 12 Pro case on my 13 Pro. But I think Apple caught on to this and they decided to move the power button down slightly. So now the 13 Pro cases will not fit on the 14 Pro. Now, it's just a small minor thing. But what bugs me is Apple's all about saving the environment now, but look at the amount of waste they could cut down on if the same case worked on what is essentially the exact same phone over 3 years. They'll be saving a lot for the environment, right? But of course they won't do that. They want to sell more for revenue. Exactly why they don't have the charger in the case. It's about getting people to buy newer chargers, all right? If you've already got one, okay, that is where it's good there. If you've already got one, I understand that, but there's a lot of decisions that they make that just puzzle me completely. They could make an absolute top phone, but they hold back in some areas. So the purpose of the video, and really what I'm getting at, is if you've got a 13 Pro Max and you're thinking about the 14 Pro Max, or you've got the 13 Pro, you're thinking about upgrading to the 14, honestly, I wouldn't. The changes, just like I've mentioned now, they are so minimal. One hardware major change, okay, the display being a lot brighter. Cameras, for now, until we see some more firmware updates, I think they're almost backwards, so that's not really an upgrade. You've got the action mode, the 4K cinematic mode that you can see now from the sample. Still doesn't look perfect, but if you need 4K cinematic, okay, that's one area. But those are software things Apple could add. But really, it all boils down to the same exact phone. You buy this, you're gonna go, wow, I just spent all that money for the same exact phone with basically a brighter screen and a more ugly notch. That's just simple facts so far, unless firmware updates really turn things around. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.